kind of landscape in the next decade or so. And so exciting to think about, exciting to talk about, and we appreciate you joining us here on Fox 35 News Plus.
Yeah, very exciting times to be a theme park fan. As you said, I appreciate you bringing me on today to talk about it.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for us here on Fox 35 News Plus. We hope you join us at 2 o'clock with Florida Live. Got a lot to cover there. And then we'll be back at 4 o'clock as well with more Fox 35 News Plus. In the meantime, as we wrap up here, I will leave you with a view of the Stardust Racers at Epic Universe, one of the coasters that you can ride there. It's gotten rave reviews from a number of folks who we have talked to who have ridden it. That is in the Celestial Park section of Epic Universe. So again, May 22nd is when everything opens. So we're going to step aside here, but we appreciate you joining us. Keep it here on Fox Local.
Florida Live starts now.
Well, good afternoon to you and welcome into Florida Live. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Thursday afternoon live on Fox Local, fox13news.com, fox35orlando.com, and also on YouTube. It is a busy Thursday, a lot to get to in this next hour. I want to let you know a little bit of what we have ahead of us here in this next hour together on Fox Local. Coming up later in the show, what Universal's European plans mean for Florida. You have a live look right there at Epic Universe, slated to open on May 22nd. The Stardust Racers, what you can see right there, running right now. And we know that is not all that Universal has plans for. Just announced yesterday a plan to open a park in Great Britain. But what does that mean for us here in Florida? We talked with Drew Smith, one of our park experts, about that. A teacher in Brevard County losing her job over calling a student by their preferred name and not their legal name in violation of Florida's policy on that. We'll have the details and the controversy surrounding that coming up in just a little bit. But we begin with some drama out of Tallahassee when it comes to the state budget. And that is because there is a lot of work ahead for lawmakers with just a few weeks left in the legislative session. Big differences in the bottom lines of the budget proposals from the two chambers, and a number of other differences as well. And joining us live now from Tallahassee via Zoom is Jim Saunders, who's the executive editor of the News Service of Florida. And Jim, we appreciate you joining us this afternoon here on Fox 35 or on Florida Live.
Well, thanks for joining, or thanks for having me.
So, Jim, I want to start here. Just kind of walk us through the bottom lines of the budget proposals and the differences that we see in the Senate and House versions, and also how it's a little bit different from what the governor had proposed.
Yeah, the House and Senate both passed their budget proposals yesterday, which sets up negotiations here in the next few weeks on a final budget. and they are about $4 billion apart. The House is pretty close to 113 billion, and the Senate's a little over 117 billion. So they've got a long ways to go in terms of bridging that gap. That's sort of the top line number, the big number that they're going to have to work through. And as you know, I mean, the only thing that the legislature really has to do during a legislative session is pass a budget. There's hundreds of other bills, but the budget's all that really has to pop out at the end. So they have to do it before, the legislative session is supposed to be over on May 2nd, but they could go longer if they can't reach agreement. And the new fiscal year starts on July 1st. So that's really the drop dead deadline. But $4 billion is a significant sum. And, one of the biggest issues, which is tied to the budget, is tax cuts. I think that's the issue that I'm watching the most closest at this point, because the House, the Senate, and the governor all have different approaches on it. And somehow they're going to have, and it's a big ticket issue, so they're going to have to figure that out before they know how much money they're going to have to play with next, in the coming year. The House has proposed a $5 billion plan to reduce the state sales tax. It would go from 6% to 5.25% across the board. There'll be a huge policy change. The governor has wanted property tax relief. And the Senate yesterday announced they're going to put out a bill in the next couple of days to allow, basically provide a sales tax exemption. You wouldn't have to pay sales taxes on clothing and shoes that cost up to $75. So these are three and that one's like a $750 million tax break or tax cut. So these are all three very different approaches, and you need to figure out your taxes to be able to build the budget. So I think that's going to be the biggest issue that I'm watching, at least.
And we heard yesterday from House Speaker Perez and Senate President Ben Albritton as well. How do they expect to resolve these differences? Because as you said, there are some pretty major ones.
Yeah, I mean, there's always differences in going into the final weeks of the session and on the, to negotiate out. It just seems this year they're pretty stark. They're going to have to come to agreement on some of the basics first, which I think is, tax cuts, then just how much generally to allocate to, education or healthcare or prisons or environment. You kind of got to get the big numbers first. And I think that's going to be a challenge. And then they sort of build in all the details around that. That's how, basically the process works every year. But what's that big a difference is, that it's gonna take some time. And I haven't heard at this point when the negotiations are going to formally start. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes, but at some point they all have to get in a room and hash it out. So, the House is also trying to sort of reverse some decisions that were made in recent years that are some big money. That it would basically free up some big money. One example, a simple example, is that the Seminole tribe provides hundreds of millions of dollars a year to the state in a gambling deal, and the House wants to change how. A couple years ago, or a year ago, they approved putting that money towards environmental purposes. The House wants to sort of undo that decision and just free up that money for other things. So there's some really big policy decisions they're going to have to reach before they can get down into the nitty-gritty of it.
Jim, the House has been criticized a lot by the governor in recent weeks, but especially in recent days. I feel like things have really kind of ramped up. Do you think that feud going on right now will have any impact on these budget decisions moving forward?
Yeah, everybody's watching that in Tallahassee right now. I mean, it's gotten pretty nasty, and some of it's about the budget, but some of it's about a lot of it's about other issues. and they're sniping at each other pretty much every day right now. The thing is that, the Senate and the House can negotiate a budget without the governor's really involvement, but then they send it to the governor and he can veto any of it or all of it if he wants to. So if he's not, he kind of has the final hammer on this thing. And I think they can negotiate a budget, but he each year vetoes hundreds of millions of dollars of what they want to spend. So he could really hold that over their heads and really use his veto pen aggressively this year if he's not happy. He seems to be getting along okay with the Senate, but he is definitely not getting along with the House. So, it's a really different dynamic than everything we've seen during the first 6 years of Governor DeSantis' administration.
All right, still a lot of interesting things to watch there in Tallahassee. Jim Saunders, executive editor of the News Service of Florida. Appreciate your time and appreciate you joining us this afternoon here on Florida Live.
Well, thanks for having me.
We're going to take a break here on Florida Live, but we will be right back after this. Welcome back to Florida Live. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Thursday afternoon live on Fox Local and on YouTube. It is time now for our Tampa connection, and for that, we bring in Fox 13 Tampa anchor Linda Hurtado. And Linda, we appreciate you joining us today.
Nice to see you, Garrett. Got a lot going on here in the Tampa area, so let's just jump right into it. The woman that was convicted in a hit and run that killed a gentleman known as the Peace Walker will not go to prison. Teresa Zeppi was sentenced today to 364 days in jail, followed by 5 years probation. Zeppi was behind the wheel of her Lincoln Navigator when she hit 82-year-old Joseph Drawless Sr. in April of 2020, and Drawless died less than a month later. So he earned that nickname, Peace Walker, because he would flash the peace sign to passersby during his walks through the neighborhood. Prosecutors said Zeppi didn't immediately stop following the crash, and at her trial last month, the jury saw surveillance footage showing her checking her vehicle for damage about 500 feet down the road and then simply driving away. So investigators also said Zeppi's vehicle had front end damage, while DNA taken from the SUV matched the victim's. In early March, Zeppi was found guilty of leaving the scene of a crash with a death. Zeppi will serve her 364-day jail sentence with credit for time served, followed by 5 years of probation. And in addition, I think this is interesting, she must serve 120 hours of community service at a trauma center or hospital that treats victims of accidents and her driver's license will be suspended for 5 years. So no prison time, but certainly her life has been affected.
You point out the community service at a trauma center or hospital. That is interesting. I don't know that that's something that I've heard before, specifically kind of mandating that community service be kind of related to what she's convicted of.
Right, tied to the results of what could happen,
Yeah.
you know, in a hit and run like that. And it's very unique, but I think effective. We'll see.
Yeah.
So when you go out to eat, you want to enjoy the meal, right? Never want to go home feeling bad. But we have a case now where, gosh, almost at least 60 people got sick after eating at a popular South Tampa restaurant. We've been covering this story for a while now, and those who said they got sick have recently eaten at Yoko's traditional Japanese restaurant on South McDill Avenue. Some of the customers contacted the Florida Department of Health, while the restaurant's owners, they say that they also contacted the health department. Fox 13 spoke with one diner who posted about her experience in a private Facebook group, and in the days that followed, more than 60 people shared similar stories about getting sick after visiting Yoko, so there may be more. These are just the people that were on that Facebook page.
Bandit, I'm still not eating normally. I've lost about 5 pounds, but I'm going to be okay. For certain people that are sick, people that are immunocompromised, elderly people die of norovirus. I mean, they can get so dehydrated to the point that it sets off a cascade of kidney failure and other problems. So it can potentially be very dangerous.
And I believe that the young lady that you heard was in the medical profession. That's why she was saying those things. The owners of the restaurant shared a statement with Fox. I'm going to read it. We are very troubled to hear that any of our customers are ill and are disheartened that some believe we may be the source of their sickness. They also said that they've done a very thorough advanced cleaning and disinfection of the restaurant, and they're working with state health officials in hopes of preventing any future illnesses. So we'll stay on top of that story and update you if anything changes with that.
Yeah, certainly.
Do you know what cruise lights are, Garrett? Like
you
when
know
you're driving
what?
down in terms of like police officer vehicles.
When I had not, just by the term, no, I don't know what that is. But when you talk about it, I was like, oh, I have seen that, but no, I have. It's not something that I'm familiar with.
Right, and most people probably have seen it but don't know what it's all about. So that's another story we're covering today. If you live in Hillsborough County, you're going to notice that the sheriff's office vehicles have their cruise lights activated at all time. So the cruise lights are different from emergency lights in that they're not going to be flashing and they're not quite as bright. The sheriff's office has gotten questions about why they're using these lights, and they say it's a way to deter crime. And listen to these stats, Garrett. One study found cruise lights led to a 44% drop in car thefts, 26% fewer crashes, 20% fewer arrests, and a 16% drop in vehicle burglaries.
That is very interesting to hear that, and I know they talked about one reason for that. Let's listen to that.
The lights are on. We want you to know that we are here and we are approachable.
The fact that you're identifying, hey, there's law enforcement in the area may quite very well be the deciding factor whether or not I'm going to engage in illegal behavior. The issue that comes up of concern, obviously, when you are highlighting yourself, you may or may not be subject to an ambush.
Well, there are measures in place to protect law enforcement. For example, deputies can turn off their lights if they're involved in a covert operation or officer safety missions. Hillsborough County is not the only place where you're going to see these cruise lights being activated now. The Bradenton Police Department has started using them, and that's why we're doing the story. We want to put that out there for the public and let them know the cruise lights are much different than the flashing lights, and now you know why.
That is really interesting, I think, to see. I think I've probably seen them more sometimes when they maybe pulled off the side, not necessarily have someone pulled over, but just kind of pulled off, kind of having those just to draw a little bit more attention. But that is interesting that some more agencies are using them all the time. I'm curious to see now if that's something that spreads throughout the state.
I guarantee you now, Garrett, when you're driving around, you're going to notice it. If they're doing it in your part of Florida, but they are doing it here.
All right, interesting stuff. Linda Hurtado, we appreciate you joining us this afternoon with our Tampa Connection.
My pleasure.
We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back with more Florida Live after this. Welcome back into Florida Live. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Thursday afternoon. How do you feel about daylight saving time and changing the clocks, whether it's springing forward in the spring, whether it's falling back in the fall? I know it seems like there is always a lot of conversation about this, especially when we come to those times like we did just a couple of weeks ago where we have to change those clocks. And every year it seems like the push gets louder to stop changing the clock, to lock the clock. And that is what the proposal is from Senator Rick Scott, who reintroduced again this year the Sunshine Protection Act, wanting to stop changing the clock, wanting to lock the clock, as they call it. It has passed the Senate before. It was reintroduced by the senator in January. It would make daylight saving time permanent. There was a Senate committee today that held a hearing to examine the issues around time change. They had a neurologist testify. They had someone who represents owners of golf courses. They had someone from an insurance safety institute talking about the dangers when it comes to driving after time changes, because we see statistics show that the number of crashes rises. So really kind of looking at it from all angles. I want to play for you the opening remarks from Florida's Senator Rick Scott as he kind of opened up this hearing this morning and in front of the Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation.
Thanks for the introduction. The invitation introduced by Bill, the Sunshine Protection Act to finally lock the clock. Senator Cruz, I know you're mourning. It's been a tough week for you with the NCAA championship. I do look forward to the
Your time has expired.
All right. My bipartisan bicameral Sunshine Protection Act. It will end the twice-yearly time change and make daylight savings time the national year-round standard. I have the support of 17 of my colleagues here in the Senate and a House companion led by my friend, Congressman Vern Buchanan from the great state of Florida. I'm sure all of us have heard from our constituents on this. The American people are sick and tired of changing their clocks twice a year. It's confusing, unnecessary, and completely outdated. It's an understatement to say that our nation has changed since the United States began changing the clock over a century ago. For example, American households have electricity now. We also have self-driving cars, computers, and cell phones. Now, changing the clocks twice a year proves more of an annoyance to families than a benefit to them. In 2018, when I was governor of Florida, I signed legislation that would allow the state to opt out of the practice of changing the time. And nearly 24 other states have done the same, pending federal approval that will come by passing the Sunshine Protection Act. The American people love having an extra hour of sunlight, especially in my state of Florida, where that means more time you can enjoy outdoors and activities with families. Studies also show the potential for reduced cardiac issues, stroke, and seasonal depression, reduced robberies, benefits to the agricultural and overall economy with an extra hour of sunlight. This is a common sense change to simplify and benefit the lives of Americans. And we have a great opportunity to finally get this done with President Trump on board to lock the clock. I want to thank the committee for the consideration of the Sunshine Protection Act. I'm optimistic we can get this passed, signed into law, and finally lock the clock. Thank you.
So that was Senator Rick Scott earlier, and it was interesting actually to listen to some of the testimony. In fact, we listened to some of that in Fox 35 News Plus at 11 a.m. And the neurologist was talking from a physician's perspective that standard time is actually the healthier option if we were to pick one for the way our bodies work and sleep habits and schedules and those kinds of things. So interesting to hear that, but just a lot of different factors as we heard in that hearing earlier today. A lot of things to consider when it comes to time change. Well, Governor Ron DeSantis was in Miami today. He held a news conference at the City of Sweetwater Community Center. He was talking about the state's condo crisis, something that we've been following closely for a while now. Now, we know there are a couple of proposals in the legislature right now on how to handle this. He applauded the Florida Senate proposal for what he called data-driven condo reform. But he spoke against the Florida House proposal and says it does not do enough to hold condo associations or their managers accountable. Here's a little bit more of what he had to say about the proposals, what needs to be done, he thinks, to address this growing crisis.
We shouldn't be in the business of mandating that these assessments must be levied on folks. I think you have reform of condo governance, you have transparency, and then the residents are able to make the decisions that they think are in the best interest of themselves. Obviously, if you're a property owner, you don't want to see the property go down the tubes. I mean, you do have a vested interest in making sure, but you also have to do it in a way that's going to be feasible and economically sustainable. So I applaud the Senate for doing this. Senator Ileana Garcia is leading the bill. She's from here in South Florida. I thank them for doing that. And there may be other things that are added to it. Like I said, I don't have pride of ownership. I just want to get the job done for people of Florida. I want people to be able to stay in their homes. I think it's really important that people are not being forced to sell or forced to leave. Now, the House's current bill doesn't include any reforms to increase accountability of condo association managers. It creates a more costly and burdensome process for removing board members. It actually weakens electronic voting system requirements, thereby inviting more opportunities for fraud. It does not add increased transparency or comprehensive data evaluation regarding the milestone inspection reports, and it does not provide more flexibility for associations to phase funding for certain components of the Structural Integrity Reserve Study, but rather allows a board to approve assessments and loans without owner approval. Largely, the House's condo bill seems to be something that favors developers and puts the interests of developers over the interests of Florida residents. That is unacceptable. If these associations can't make improvements and the buildings are clearly obsolete, the value of the real estate that they are built upon may outweigh the investment. The problem is many seniors and middle-class condo residents can be displaced and ultimately may not have a place to call home. And so why are we even entertaining a situation where people are going to be put in that awful predicament? And here's the thing. Things happen in life, right? There's things, so many things that we cannot control in state government that happens, that it can impact people. But this is something that was created by legislation. This would not be happening without legislation that had been passed years ago. And so let's recognize that. Let's recognize that these consequences are not what we want, and let's provide reforms to be able to keep people in their condo units. That's what I have heard overwhelmingly from Florida residents.
So more to continue to watch, and he also had some pretty strong words at other parts of that news conference for House Republicans specifically, saying they're not doing what they campaigned on. Obviously, we talked with Jim kind of about the dynamics when it comes to the legislature, specifically the House and the governor, and a lot of things in the background there to keep in mind for context. Florida's agriculture commissioner was in Hillsborough County today talking about the danger of wildfires. He talked about the technology the state has and is using to help with wildfires, to put them out, to prevent them, and that kind of thing. We know it has been a dry season for us here in Florida over the past few months. So far this year, officials say they have fought more than double the number of wildfires rather, compared to this same time last year.
We fought over, I believe, 1,000 fires already this year. We will fight another 1,500 to 2,000 fires between now and the end of fire season. A lot of those fires are started by Mother Nature with lightning, but most of the fires are by arson or backyard fires that get away from us. And so we're here today to just warn the public, please do not throw cigarettes out your window. Contain your backyard fires. If you're going to have a fire pit, if you've got a barbecue, make sure it is thoroughly put out, because the best fire to fight is the one that never started. And we have the best trained men and women anywhere in the country in the Florida Forest Service. They have the best training in the world. They have the best equipment in the world. But wildfires can get out of hand. We've seen what it's done out west, and we certainly do not want to have an incident like that here. We had a pretty large fire just a few weeks ago in Miami, and I think it got up to about 50,000 acres total. But we took care of that fire in very short order relative to what we were dealing with there. Obviously, a nuclear power plant was in the area. The racetrack was in the area. So we had very high strategic value targets for the state of Florida. And we did that very successfully because of the professionalism of Rick Dolan and his team to make sure that we do that. Those successes do not guarantee future success. If the public sees something, we need you to say something. We need you to call. The earlier we can get on a fire and get it put out, the better we have it. We take nothing for granted here, and we are here to serve. We really appreciate our local firefighters that work with us in every county and the city municipalities. We work with all of them anytime we're needed, and we're looking for the continued partnerships. And anyways, we're here to just bring awareness today. So if you see something, certainly call local authorities. We have an open door with those local authorities and training arenas. Just did a major training here. We have now a fleet of 10 helicopters that are state copters. You've seen them in action now. We can go in and start putting fires out very quickly with some of that technology that we didn't have just a few years ago. We had older, when I say older helicopters, I mean from the 60s and 70s, the old Hueys from the military, and they weren't always reliable. And so we've got a lot better equipment now. We're very appreciative of those things, but we do need the public to stay vigilant. And again, we tell our folks to be very aggressive every day, but go home. So if you have a home, clean your gutters out, clean your roof off, make a defensible space that we can help you with when we get there.
Some good advice there to keep in mind as this dry season, this fire season continues ahead of, while we still wait on the rains to come, the seasonal rains. We're going to take a break here on Florida Live, but we'll be right back with more after this. The contract of a teacher in Brevard County is not being renewed after officials say she referred to a student by their preferred name instead of the legal name. Here's some of the details we have online right now. You can read all about it at fox35orlando.com. We know state law does require parental permission for teachers to call a student by a preferred name instead of their legal name, and that has now gotten in trouble. Satellite High School teacher Melissa Calhoun This was the subject of some public comment during a Brevard school board meeting earlier this week, where someone spoke and defended Calhoun and also compared this to another high-profile situation that we've covered quite a bit out of Brevard County, where another principal and teacher face criminal charges after being accused of throwing a large house party for underage kids.
I'm here tonight as both a parent of a child in this district and as a colleague of a teacher whose contract was recently not renewed. It's from both of these roles that I share my deep concern, not only about what was done, but how quietly it was done. Let me be clear, this teacher was not fired. Instead, her contract was simply not renewed. On paper, it may seem like a small administrative decision, but let's be honest, it was a way to slip this under the rug. No explanation of families, no chance for the teacher to correct the mistake, no transparency. Just a quiet final decision that effectively ended her career in our district without ever calling it what it was. Now, let's compare that to another situation currently playing out in the same district. A principal and a teacher remain on administrative leave after being criminally charged in a case that may have directly put students in danger. It has been over 3 months, and yet they still receive the benefit of time, privacy, and due process, and up until today's agenda item, pay. Meanwhile, the teacher, my colleague and child's teacher, was let go of after just 2 weeks of internal review. Her offense, an unintentional violation of the nickname policy. There was no harm, no threat to safety, no malicious intent, just a teacher trying to connect with a student. And for that, her contract was not renewed, despite her strong dedication and years of service. I ask you, how can we justify this? How can a serious legal matter involving student safety be met with patience and protection, while a policy-level misstep ends a respected teacher's career in silence? What message does this send to the staff still working here? That no matter how much they give, they're one misunderstood moment away from being erased. And to the students, what are we showing them about justice, accountability, and who gets grace? The teacher made a difference in her classroom and in the lives of our students, including my own child. She deserved more than a quiet exit. She deserved fairness, context, and compassion. I hope this board will reflect not only on the decisions made, but on the very different ways they were handled. If we truly value integrity and equity, we need to start practicing them in every corner of our leadership, not just where it's convenient. Thank you.
And you heard applause from folks there in the crowd at the Brevard County School Board meeting earlier this week as well. We know this teacher, Melissa Calhoun, is still in the classroom until her contract expires in May. At that point, we know the state of Florida will review her teaching certification and see what the steps may follow after that. Now, we do have a statement from Brevard County Public Schools. They sent us this statement that says Brevard Public Schools was made aware that a teacher at Satellite High School had been referring to a student by a name other than their legal name without parental permission when the parent reached out to us. They say this directly violates state law and the district's standardized process for written parental consent. They go on to say BPS supports parents' rights to be the primary decision makers in their children's lives, and Florida law affirms their right to be informed. Going on to say after the accusation was made, the district conducted a detailed investigation based on the teacher's own admission that she knowingly did not comply with state statute. She received a letter of reprimand. Teachers, like all employees, are expected to follow the law. Again, there are some more details right now on our website when it comes to this story. Fox 35's Randy Hildreth is going to be following up on this as well, and we'll have more on that later today. We're going to take a break here on Florida Live, but we'll be right back. Welcome back into Florida Live. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Thursday afternoon, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. A puppy is fighting for her life after a horrific case of what investigators believe is animal abuse. Her name is Sweet Pea, and her skull was crushed. The suspect in this case was arrested. This is a case out of a different part of the state, up in North Florida, I believe. But the animal hospital that is treating her is in Oviedo, here in Seminole County, north of Orlando. Fox 35's Hannah McKenzie has the story.
This 10-week-old puppy, beaten so badly, rescuers couldn't even tell her breed. CT scans revealing a cracked skull and brain swelling. Her nasal cavity shattered.
She can still smell, she can still eat, she notices food.
And she can still give kisses.
Oh my gosh, look at her.
Despite what she's been through. Now named Sweet Pea and in the care of Crystal Deddy of Livin' Like Larry Farm Sanctuary, she's getting around-the-clock care at Oviedo Veterinary Care and Emergency. But she was abused 3 hours away in Live Oak.
The suspect was said to have rolled the puppy into a blanket, smashed it against the ground, stomped it, kicked it, and slammed it up against a tree, among other things.
Captain Jason Roundtree says a witness called 911, and within a few hours, officers tracked down the suspect to a laundromat bathroom.
You're under arrest. Don't fight. You're under arrest.
45-year-old Eric Roldan, now charged with felony aggravated animal cruelty.
It's really heartbreaking when you see that the depth of depravity and humanity could stoop so low.
And then yet there is the flip side. Animal advocates like Deddy.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you.
Who's now fundraising for Sweet Pea's skull surgery. Hannah McKenzie, Fox 35 News.
Gosh, just hard to see, hard to know what that puppy has been through, but certainly glad they are on the mend. Meanwhile, in Tallahassee, today a Senate committee advanced an animal cruelty bill. This is known as Dexter's Law, named for a dog that was decapitated in a case out of Pinellas County. This was SB 494, sponsored by Senator Tom Leek, a Republican from Ormond Beach. It strengthens penalties for aggravated animal cruelty. It also would create a statewide database of convicted animal abusers. The Senate Appropriations Committee on Criminal and Civil Justice reported that bill favorably today. I want to play for you a little bit of the conversation about that inside that committee meeting earlier today.
This information is already collected, right? And when somebody is convicted of the crime, that access to that information is not available, county to county or circuit to circuit. So what they're going to do is aggregate that information, allow someone to go look up an individual to see whether they've been committed or convicted of committing a crime of abuse against an animal.
Okay, follow up. You can go back. To what end?
So in Ponce's Law in 2018, we gave the court's authority to ban someone from owning an animal going forward based on a conviction for animal abuse. This would allow them to see whether they are banned from owning an animal going forward, primarily to the benefit of adoption, pet adoption clinics, et cetera.
I just hate the fact personally that people abuse animals. Like if I see videos, the first thing I want to do is go find the person and beat the crap out of them. That's just me. So
I'm
if
not
we
going to recommend that.
You don't have to.
Own crime.
But if we can prevent other animals from being abused by known abusers that have been adjudicated in the court system, I think we'd be better off.
I agree with you. This is the first step in that direction because now it makes that information available to the clinics and pet stores.
Good afternoon, Chair Martin and Senators. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak today. I'm here on behalf of the Marion County Board of County Commissioners to voice our full and heartfelt support for Senate Bill 494, which is a critical step toward protecting Florida's animals and enhancing public safety throughout our state. In 2015, our board was approached by Lily Barron of the SPCA of Ocala, and she brought forward a compelling proposal to stop those convicted of animal cruelty from adopting or purchasing more animals in order to prevent further abuse. In 2016, that idea became a reality when Marion County established an animal abuser registry, known locally and affectionately as Molly's Law. Molly was a local story in 2014 that suffered an unimaginable act of cruelty. She was stabbed in the head and beaten with a wooden bat. That brutality of that attack shocked our community, but from that tragedy came something powerful, a groundswell of compassion, determination, and action. Today, Molly's Law stands as a model of what a community can do when it refuses to stay silent in the face of cruelty. Molly's Law created a public registry listing individuals convicted of animal abuse in Marion County, which is a tool used daily by animal shelters, rescues, veterinarians, pet sellers, and citizens.
I'm the Executive Director of the Cape Coral Animal Shelter and Veterinary Clinic in Lee County, and I'm here to urge you for a statewide animal abuse database, your support. Every day our shelter takes in animals that have suffered unthinkable abuse and neglect. Last year alone, Lee County investigated over 3,000 animal abuse cases. These animals deserve safe, loving homes, and it's our job to ensure that they get them. Our shelter facilitates more than 1,100 adoptions each year, but without a centralized database, it's nearly impossible for us and our staff to vet adopters across Florida's 11 fragmented local databases. In Lee County, since we launched our own database in 2023, we've already identified over 20 known abusers. A statewide centralized database would give shelters, rescuers, breeders, pet stores, anyone who's rehoming an animal, the critical tool to prevent known abusers from acquiring more victims. Animals have no voice, and it's up to us to speak for them.
Just, I would reiterate to see if there's something that we can do that doesn't express prohibition for people on the registry from adopting or purchasing. I understand that small breeders would probably complain about that because they would have to go and look up the database. It would be an extra regulation, but I think this is an issue that is well worth it. Another thing I would like you to consider as this bill moves along is, I don't know what other states have in terms of abused animal registries, but we should probably look at, and I think we should look at putting some language in there for the state of Florida with this abuse registry to create MOUs with other states so we can cross-reference people who have been convicted of this in other states to make sure that they're not purchasing in the state of Florida, because if they go and they purchase their first animal in the state of Florida or adopt their first one and they were abusing animals in Georgia, we would never capture that information. So I think that language would probably be good also, just to make sure that we're capturing these people. With that, I'm a big yes on it. Thank you.
What a great bill, really. It's unimaginable that we have domesticated these animals and then we do these terrible things that are being done to them. And as the commissioner said, it is a telltale sign that these people that abuse animals more than likely are going to do the same thing to human beings. So I'm a big yes also today. Thank you for bringing this bill forward.
We should also note a similar bill in the House passed unanimously, 109 to nothing. That includes the sentence multiplier, but not the database provision, a database bill filed separately in the House. We're going to take a break here on Florida Live, but we'll be right back. Welcome back to Florida Live, and a live look at Epic Universe ahead of the park's opening on May 22nd. But it's not just Epic Universe that's in the works for Universal. They announced yesterday their first European Universal theme park that they're going to build north of London. So what does all that mean for us here in Florida? Earlier today, I spoke with one of our theme park experts about that.
Yeah, so if you include Epic Universe out here in Orlando, it's not officially open yet, and then you have this on screen right now. This is Universal Kids Resort opening in Frisco, Texas. It's about 30 minutes north of Dallas. I actually lived about 10 minutes away for a little while where they're building this park. It's a beautiful area. So this park is designated specifically for kids and families, but the immersion and the theming here in this concept art, it looks great. And then you have Hollywood. Hollywood's undergoing a transformation right now, as well, with Fast and Furious Hollywood Drift, that new roller coaster, and they're kind of transforming that entire resort, presumably for the Olympics coming up in 2028. And then you have, Great Britain. So there's just such a strong pipeline here of world-class offerings from Universal in the coming years.
And so what does this mean then for Orlando and with these things in the works, with plans beyond that? What does that mean for us here?
Yeah, so I think that's why the main reason I wanted to talk to you today about this is because everyone watching at home is probably like, well, this isn't here, so why would I care about it? But the way that I look at this is, let's say Hollywood is around 2028, where they kind of want to wrap up this transformation. And then you have, Kids Resort in 2026, and then you have Great Britain in 2031. Well, the way that I view that is that Universal is planning past 2030. So if they're already planning past 2030 for their destinations and experiences segment of the company as a whole, well, that means that we have projects that are in development right now for Universal Orlando Resort that we just don't know about yet. And that's not just me speculating. This video that you guys are seeing on screen right now, this was recently posted on the Universal Orlando YouTube channel. They had Mark Woodbury, Karen Irwin, basically the leaders of Universal Orlando, talking about Epic Universe and beyond. I think her exact quote was, Epic Universe might feel like a finale, but it's really just the beginning of what we want to do kind of with these world-class offerings lately. And they've even put it officially in this video that they have the next thing in the works for Epic Universe. And we also know that Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket is closing in early September for a new experience. I've heard some rumors about what that's going to be, and it sounds very promising, probably another coaster there. But there's just so much planning here, so much collaboration and investment. And I think that when you have these people that are very personal, like Mark Woodbury and these leaders, and they just feel like real people, and then you see how good Epic Universe has been with how strong the early reviews have been, I think the future of Universal Orlando Resort is extremely, extremely bright.
It's crazy to think that Epic Universe, not even being open yet, and having all the different worlds that it does, but that they're already working on expansions for it. Do we know what that might look like?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that a lot of people have been talking about, Zelda or Wicked. There's always those IPs and properties that people want. But I think the big thing here is we do have this massive opening celebration for Universal Epic Universe coming up in May. So if Universal is ready to drop this next expansion, being like, hey, we're opening this park right now, but, here's the official announcement for what's coming, that would be amazing. But that's just speculation on my end. We don't know exactly what is coming, but just the fact that they were ready to say, yes, we have the next big project in the works for Epic already before this park officially opens, I just think is so promising. And for me personally, as a diehard Disney fan, it's kind of opening my eyes to Universal and how strong this company has been lately.
That's what I was kind of wanting to segue into here, because there has been a lot of hype around Universal, specifically because of Epic Universe, for a while now. But with this talk of these other things, I mean, that's not going to slow down. It sounds like they are really kind of ramping things up and really trying to stick it to Disney a little bit here when it comes to these theme park wars.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so great to see healthy competition in this industry. Something that I'm big on is a lot of people compare Disney to Universal, and there's just so much negativity and bickering and back and forth around it. And I absolutely despise that, because the reason why these people work on these theme parks and the reason why so much money is poured into these theme parks is to make people happy, to make memories for these families when they are spending their hard-earned money to come into these experiences and experiencing them with their family and friends and close ones. And when I'm seeing Universal contribute to that, which is just going to propel the entire attractions industry forward positively. every single year out here in Orlando, we have IAPA Expo, which is the International Association of Amusement Parks and Attractions. All these professionals from around the world coming and seeing what's new and what's best. And Universal is adding to that. And then we have Disney and all these companies from around the world. And it's just so encouraging, and it brings a lot of optimism to me as someone who follows the theme parks. And I think just for like, the last 5 years now since Hagrid's opened and Velocicoaster opened, that was kind of the start of when Universal, I think, started to take a turn for the better with their projects. And now, you have this 100-acre theme park with over 10 attractions, live shows. It's incredible. It really is epic, as people would say. That sounds cliche, but it's really good stuff. And like you said, the future is bright. They're not stopping by any means.
Yeah, it seems like they really don't want to let that momentum go, because I think you can certainly, and I know you're much more plugged in with it than I am, but for those of us who do follow this theme park news, they really are, they really do have the momentum, and they are running with it right now.
Yep. And honestly, good for Universal. I think this is just such a testament to when you have creative people and you fund those creative visions, how incredible these things can turn out to be. Epic Universe is a visual embodiment of that at this point. It's not, any wonder anymore. People have been to this park. Everyone's loving it. It turned out beautifully. And that's why when I'm looking at everything they're doing around the world, thinking about Hollywood and then the kids resort in Frisco and even Great Britain now, Universal means business, and it's just fantastic to see.
And so if you're, let's say, not just to pick on Disney, but if you're one of these other theme parks, including obviously Disney in our area, and you see this, what do you think? What does that tell you about what is going to be expected from your park?
Yeah, so I think it's phenomenal, honestly. And my hope is that Disney's executives will go to Epic Universe, experience this park in person, and then just go into their future projects open-minded to see what they can do better in the future. Back when Islands of Adventure opened in the early 2000s, it's been just about 25 years since we've seen a major theme park open in the United States. And now it's different with social media, where when I've been on social media on all these platforms, my entire feed is Epic Universe, mainly How to Train Your Dragon Isle of Berk. I think that is going to be the sleeper hit of this entire park. But yeah, to answer your question, I just think that this is such a golden opportunity for these leaders and these executives to go in open-minded with this park and say, hey, if people are loving this, well, how can we translate that DNA into our future experiences so we are doing things better going forward? Disney obviously has done world-class things for 70 years now, since Imagineering was founded and since Disneyland opened, and Disneyland is about to open for its 70th celebration, and they're having a massive thing out there from this summer to next summer. But I think it's just so great to see Universal doing so well, because it might take Disney from doing what they do best and doing what they're used to, but then switch things a little bit up. And I just think having an open mind with those things just is fantastic for everything going forward to maybe change things for the better.
And so Universal's Epic Universe opens May 22nd. I think a really interesting conversation to have with Drew there about the impact of that, and the impact of the other plans and things that we will see, and how the landscape of theme parks in our area really is going to change over the next few years. Well, thanks for joining us on Florida Live. That's going to do it for us today. We'll be back here tomorrow at 2 p.m. with more Florida Live. We hope you join us every day here on Fox Local, Fox13News.com, Fox35Orlando.com, and also on YouTube. Have a great rest of your Thursday.